The day I got engaged, my parents threw a celebration. For my brother, Mom said, he'll always be our priority. My sister laughed. You wouldn't get a crowd anyway. I stayed quiet and left that night. Months later, while they toasted him again, photos of my destination wedding filled their screens. Guests, music, and a joy they could only watch. Why are you even here, Jonah? Dad's voice split the noise like a blade. The laughter at the dining table died instantly. The house smelled of roasted meat, candles, and hypocrisy. Mom didn't lift her head. Mason, my older brother, leaned back with that smug grin he'd worn since childhood. I thought we agreed this dinner was for family, he said. Mom's lips curved. He is family, Mason. Just, the complicated kind. My chest tightened. I glanced around. Aunts, cousins, all watching quietly. They didn't defend me. They never did. Dad sliced through his steak. You're 26, Jonah. You need to stop showing up like a guest in your own family. When are you going to stand on your own feet? I paid for your feet, I muttered under my breath. What? Dad barked. I raised my eyes. Nothing. Mason snorted. He's still bitter. Dad didn't bail him out that one time. The car situation? He looked around the table for laughs. He got them. Mom sighed dramatically. Mason, stop teasing. Then, looking at me with pity disguised as grace. You really should tell us before you come. We didn't plan for an extra seat. Didn't plan for me. The extra plate suddenly felt like proof that I was unwanted. Dad said, You should learn from your brother. He's building something real. Mason raised his glass. To real adults. The laughter this time was sharper. Louder. I sat there, cheeks burning, staring at my reflection in the wine glass. Even my silence was being laughed at. Mom leaned toward Mason, whispering, He tries so hard to fit in. Yeah, Mason smirked. But some people just aren't made for family. That did it. I stood up. My chair scraped the floor like thunder. Dad's tone hardened. Sit down, Jonah. Don't embarrass yourself again. I looked him straight in the eye. No, not this time. And with a voice steadier than I felt, I said, I didn't come to eat. I came to end the show. Mason's smile faltered. The music stopped. For the first time in years, every eye turned toward me. Not with pity, but fear. My name's Jonah Hale. 26, the quiet son. The one they remember only when something needs fixing. I was the one who paid the bills they forgot, who fixed the leaks, covered the loans, and still got blamed for being lazy. Silence became my armor, not because I was weak, but because shouting never changed anything in this house. I learned early that love here was currency. You earned it by obedience or success. I had neither, apparently. When I bought Dad's medication last year, he told everyone Mason did it. When Mom's insurance lapsed, I paid it quietly. She never mentioned it again. Now, sitting there across from them, I realized they'd never see me as family, only as the help. But what they didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I'd stopped helping months ago. And tonight, they were about to find out why. The family cast. Mason Hale, 28, charming, reckless, addicted to applause. He had a talent for being the favorite. Dad, Charles. 58, everything in his life was about control, money, image, reputation. He used guilt like a leash. Mom, Eleanor. 54, the peacemaker on the surface, the manipulator underneath. She never raised her voice. She let others do the dirty work while she looked heartbroken. Every relative in that room played their part. Mason, the golden child. Dad, the martyr. Mom, the saint. Me, the disappointment. Dad leaned back. You've always had potential, Jonah. You just never use it. Mason laughed. Yeah, potential's all he's got. My jaw clenched. I'd spent years swallowing words until my throat hurt. Not tonight. I smiled faintly. Funny thing about potential. It's quiet. until it isn't. Mom's hand froze halfway to her wine glass. She knew that tone, the one I used when I'd already made up my mind. Something in her eyes flickered. Fear. The dinner turned to talk about Mason's new condo. He bragged about the down payment, the imported marble, the smart home system. Dad beamed like he'd built it himself. I said nothing until Mason mentioned the loan. Yeah, the bank believed in me, said my record was solid. I tilted my head. That's interesting. He looked up. What? Because that loan was co-signed. The room stilled. Mom said quickly, Jonah, don't start. Dad frowned. Co-signed? By who? I smiled. By me, using my savings account. Remember that. Mason's fork slipped from his hand. Dad looked between us confused. Mom's eyes pleaded. Silent panic. Dad growled, You used your brother's account. Mason stammered. It was Mom's idea. Ah, enough, Mom shouted, standing up. But her outburst only confirmed it. The silence after was heavy, like everyone finally heard the truth breathing between them. And I realized this was just the beginning. Mason's mask cracked. You're seriously acting like a victim now? You offered to help. I met his glare. I offered to help, not to be robbed. Dad slammed his palm on the table. Watch your mouth. Why? You didn't when he emptied my account. Mom tried to step in. Jonah, don't ruin family over money. I turned to her slowly. You already did. The air thickened. Even the chandelier above us hummed like it wanted to break. Mason sneered. You think this makes you better than us? You're still the failure. I smiled faintly. And yet somehow, the failure funded your success. He shoved his chair back, fists tight. Dad grabbed his arm, whispering, Not now. I stood. No, Dad. Now's perfect. My voice was calm. Too calm. That scared them more than shouting ever could. I leaned in, eyes steady. You built your lives on something rotten. And tonight, I'm pulling the foundation. 2 years earlier, Dad's heart attack. Hospital lights, cold hallways, the smell of antiseptic. I stayed for 3 nights, sleeping upright on a plastic chair. Paid the bills quietly, filled the prescriptions. When he finally woke up, Mason walked in with flowers and a camera crew. His vlog audience watching him take care of Dad. Everyone clapped online. Mom hugged him, said, You're such a blessing. No one mentioned me. That night, I heard Mom whisper to Mason in the hallway, Jonah means well, but he'll never be like you. I remember sitting there, numb. That was the first night I stopped crying and started remembering every insult, every time they laughed, every time they forgot my name. And from that night forward, I promised myself, the next time they tried to humiliate me, I'd let them, right before I destroyed their illusion. I reached into my jacket and placed a folder on the table. Since we're being honest, I said, you might want to see this. Inside were documents, bank statements, transfers, property records, everything tied together. Mason's condo, Dad's tax payments, Mom's charity fund. All under my name. Dad's face drained of color. Where did you get this? From your accountant. He called me when your payments bounced. Mom gasped. Jonah, please don't. Not this time. I looked at Mason. Your condo, it's in foreclosure. The loan you bragged about, it was fake approval, based on my credit score. Mason stood, voice breaking. You wouldn't. I already did, I said quietly, and I recorded everything. Dad sank into his chair. You'll ruin us? I nodded. That's the plan. The house turned to chaos. Mason shouted, Mom cried, Dad cursed. Voices overlapped like thunder, but I heard every word. You ungrateful... You planned this. Jonah, how could you? I stood there, calm in the storm. I gave you all my silence, I said softly. Tonight, I'm giving you the truth. Mom grabbed my arm. We can fix this. I pulled away. You can't fix what you never cared to see. Dad tried to stand, then sank back down, defeated. For the first time I saw him, Not powerful, not terrifying, just small. I walked toward the door. Behind me, Mason yelled, "You think you won!" I turned slightly. No, Mason, I think I finally stopped losing. Outside, the night air hit like freedom. Rain started to fall, soft, cleansing. I stood under it, breathing for the first time in years. Behind me, through the window, I could still see them, arguing, blaming, breaking. It wasn't revenge that satisfied me. It was release. Mom opened the door, her voice trembling. "Jonah, please don't go like this." I turned halfway. "You already said it once. I shouldn't have come tonight." Her face fell. I walked away, slow and steady, until their voices faded into nothing. They'll never see me the same again, I thought, and I don't need them to. 6 months later, a new apartment, a small desk, my own peace. I get a text from an unknown number, a photo of the old house, empty, then another, "Mason's condo up for sale." Mom wrote, "We miss you." I didn't reply. I looked around my quiet home. Cheap furniture, sunlight through thin curtains, a small cup of coffee. Everything was mine. Every bill had my name on it, this time by choice. And for the first time, I didn't feel alone. I felt whole. For the first time, I whispered, "I don't carry their weight anymore. I was always the quiet son, the helper, the ghost at the table. They taught me silence was peace. They were wrong. Silence is the space before the truth explodes." If you were in my place, would you forgive or walk away forever? Tell me in the comments. Your story matters here. Like if Jonah's pain felt familiar. Subscribe for more stories about silence, family, and the freedom that follows truth.